everyone, I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle along with Julie Roginski, Tucker Carlson, Melissa Francis, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is a special live Saturday edition of The Five.
The American people deserve to get the full and complete facts immediately. We don't know the facts, which is why we are calling on the FBI to release all the information that it has. Even Director Comey noted that this new information may not be significant, so let's get it out.
And in an ironic twist, Hillary Clinton is calling on the FBI to be transparent about her emails as she faces a potentially devastating blow to her presidential campaign with a week and a half to go. A new national poll released this morning shows this race has narrowed dramatically, and that survey was taken before yesterday's news broke. Only 2 points between the nominees now. Trump had a lot more to say about the FBI's new investigation of his opponent today. Listen.
It's everybody's deepest hope that justice, at last, can be properly delivered. Hillary has nobody to blame but herself for her mounting legal troubles. Her criminal action was willful, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. Hillary should have been convicted long ago.
Hillary addressed herself today as well. Listen.
I'm sure that some of you may have heard about a letter that the FBI director sent out yesterday. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. It's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling. We've called on Director Comey to explain everything right away, put it all out on the table. Right?
Yeah. And Ed Henry has more now live from Washington. Ed?
Great to see you, Kimberly. New questions tonight about whether the Obama Justice Department sought to protect Hillary Clinton from more scrutiny in the email scandal, because an FBI source is confirming to Fox that top Justice Department officials tried to stop Director James Comey from informing Congress that he was reigniting this investigation of Clinton's server, warning Comey it violated 2 different Justice Department policies, commenting on an ongoing probe and taking action that could influence an election. The FBI source said while Comey reports to Attorney General Loretta Lynch, he does not play what this source called cautious mother may I rules, and took Lynch at her word when she vowed repeatedly over the last year or so that she'd be independent and let the FBI follow the facts. A senior law enforcement official is adding that Comey felt compelled to act now because the FBI found over 10,000 emails from top Clinton aide Huma Abedin on a laptop that she has shared with her now estranged husband, Anthony Weiner. The LA Times is reporting today that new Abedin emails were not to and from Hillary Clinton, and top Democrats in Congress are jumping on that to say and write a letter to Comey and Lynch demanding a complete accounting of what kind of evidence he does have. But the senior law enforcement official we spoke to insisted the FBI is looking at evidence pertinent to the probe of the Democratic nominee's server. And Republicans also note today that after all the heat Comey took this summer, after saying there was evidence of potential violations of law by Clinton, he would not risk a second major embarrassment by coming forward now, reigniting this investigation, unless they have some kind of evidence that would justify that, because he's going to have eventually a public accounting, Kimberly.
All right, thanks for that update, Ed. Now, Trump thinks this is bigger than Watergate, and one of the reporters who broke that story doesn't agree, but Carl Bernstein does think the FBI must have come across something big.
We don't know what this means yet, except that it's a real bombshell. And it is unthinkable that the director of the FBI would take this action lightly, that he would put this letter forth to the Congress of the United States saying that there is more information out there about classified emails and call it to the attention of the Congress unless it was something requiring serious investigation.
House Judiciary Committee member Trey Gowdy agrees this is an extraordinary move by the FBI. He says Clinton's only got herself to blame.
extraordinary email arrangement with herself, and she is the author of her own destiny. Everything that's happened since then is the natural, probable consequence of deciding you're going to have a rogue email system. So I understand she's upset, and I understand she doesn't like the timing, but she need to look no further than herself.
Okay, so great point by Trey Gowdy. This is a guy who was always a top prosecutor, smart, was one of the ones answering the questions, trying to get some answers from Hillary Clinton. What I find to be remarkable, Greg, is the fact that Hillary is calling for transparency, and this is the one that wants to be the deleter-in-chief, had the illegal email server, didn't follow protocol, used BleachBit, used hammers, oops, they forgot 4, and missed 4 different devices. But you know who has the emails? We don't need to have the FBI release them. Huma Abedin has the emails. So why don't you, Hillary Clinton, let Huma Abedin, who works for you, release the emails instead of trying to put the FBI on the page on this?
The last thing you want with Anthony Weiner is more transparency. But you know what? Here's my question about this scandal. Did Anthony Weiner flip on his wife to stay out of jail? I would say that's beneath him, but the only thing beneath him is a camera. And about this idea, it's true. I've seen the angles. So we're asked, is this a big deal? We're asked, okay, is this, Bernstein says it's a big deal. I say, who cares if it's a big deal? Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot. How hard would that shoe drop? The Democrats would milk this like a bloated heifer pumping out liquid opium.
You're full of discussing an analogy.
No, but I'm saying that don't blame Trump or anybody for working this. Because imagine if this were the left. What did they do to Romney with binders full of women? A very small thing where he was actually talking about hiring women, what they did to him. And what did he do? He turned the other cheek, and he lost. In this case, nobody's turning the other cheek anymore.
But why should somebody turn the other cheek, Melissa? I mean, this is significant. There is an investigation of consequence going on. And as a former prosecutor, for Comey to say, felt compelled enough after reviewing these emails, he said they appear to be consistent with our email investigation of Hillary Clinton's server.
If there's one thing we know about Director Comey, it's that he needs mountains of irrefutable evidence to do anything, to move an inch, to open his mouth, to do anything. So there has got to be mountains of irrefutable evidence here. In order for him, he knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, he knows exactly that he's turning the election upside down. Last time around, he said he was loath to impose on the election. He didn't want to do this. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot there. I wondered the same thing, too, because when the FBI seizes Anthony Weiner's laptop, that's very serious. He potentially has pictures of underage girls on the computer. The FBI takes that very seriously. He's looking at hard prison time. I wonder what else he's saying. I mean, it's not just this laptop. Who knows what other information he has? I mean, he could be singing like a yellow-tailed cockatoo.
I hope those.
How was that? Did you like that?
Very nice.
Was that okay?
Yeah, I hope the agents had their shots.
Yes, exactly. So Tucker, so the laptop that Melissa referred to was used by Huma and Anthony Weiner. That's so it also begs the question, what total disregard for national security? This is somebody that works very closely with Hillary, has for a very long time, and was somebody that would receive Hillary's emails, go through, screen them, forward them to one of her couple of accounts that she had, and then all of this potential treasure trove of information on a laptop by somebody who's accused essentially of being a pedophile.
And it's not as if the Clintons didn't know this. I mean, Bill Clinton presided at their wedding, so they were fully aware she was married. Her closest aide was married to a lunatic. By this point, he had held 2 press conferences admitting publicly on camera that he was reckless and out of control. This laptop in question, by the way, is really significant because at the end of June, on the 26th of June, Huma Abedin gave sworn testimony that she had turned over every device with emails on it to the federal government. Was this one of those devices? Apparently not. That's a problem. But ascend to 35,000 feet very quickly and ask yourself, who does this help? This has always been a contest of who's worse. So on the one side you have Donald Trump, who's emotionally incontinent, doesn't know much about policy, has, is over the top in his personal life. Fine. She's under FBI investigation less than 2 weeks before the presidential election. Holy smokes. It kind of answers that question definitively, and that's why the left is panicked.
Yeah, and she was already with the statement by Comey, Julie, saying that she was extremely careless, and the statutes don't require specific intent. It's not a specific intent crime. This is just further evidence that national security information and emails were not maintained properly and across a multitude of devices, and they did not comply. So you're looking at potentially obstruction of justice. You're looking at potentially perjury charges, depending if there's inconsistencies with what Huma said, just to the point that you made in terms of the devices and turning over the evidence.
Well, there's a ton of speculation. You just said that she's under FBI investigation. Actually, there's no evidence that she's under FBI.
Hillary?
Hillary.
Well, they just said she was. That's the only reason I thought
Who said that?
The director of the FBI.
No, he
said
didn't.
We're looking at this. Oh, yeah, actually he did.
No,
letter to Congress.
no. In the letter to Congress, he said he did not specifically. Excuse me. He did not.
Try another tack.
It's not a tack. Wait a second. Show me where he said that they are looking at her. We don't know if these emails are from her. To her. In fact, the LA Times said they're not.
So Comey sent it to just let them know that they're looking into Anthony Weiner?
They're looking into emails that may have something to do with this. But wait a second, Tucker.
Here's consistent with our investigation of Hillary Clinton.
No, excuse me. Wait a second. But what you guys are talking about here is rank speculation. You may be right.
No, the speculation is, it may not be a big deal. I'm not saying
it may not be a big deal.
There's no speculation about whether they're investigating her. They're investigating her. They said they are.
Release it. Release it.
Okay, that's a different question.
No,
but I'm saying they're investigating her.
But Hillary can release it. She's the one that prevented the release. That's why this is just so rich.
What can Hillary,
wow.
What can
She's
Hillary
like, why don't you put the information out there? Oh, Hillary, you actually have access and control to it, and so does Huma Abedin. If you want the emails released that you're putting the finger on the FBI, do it yourself.
Do you know
That's the point.
Does she know what emails they're looking at? Because right now, for all we don't know what they're looking at.
No idea. We know they're investigating her, though. She's under FBI investigation.
Emails on that laptop. You don't know what emails are on your laptop? I know what emails are on my laptop.
I think so. She should release just her entire laptop, all her personal emails, her correspondence with Anthony Weiner.
If it's that important to them in the election, I mean, that's what Hillary Clinton is saying. It is critical that we get this out so the voters know it's life or death to her. She should release the emails off her laptop.
How about the feds, and specifically Jim Comey, needs to get up tomorrow. I think he owes it to the people. There's an election in less than 2 weeks. Get up tomorrow and say, this is what we're specifically looking at. We're looking at Huma Abedin or Anthony Weiner. Why not?
Because that is not, if you prosecute cases and you work with these people and the FBI and these investigatory agencies, that is not protocol. They're not under obligation to do that. That would actually be a deviation. And he actually had the courage to come forward. It's true. He said what he did, and he put it out there, and despite the fact that Justice was telling him and pushing him to not write the letter and inform Congress. Now, if that doesn't show you the kind of collusion and coercion and trying to coerce him, and you know what? He went ahead and did it anyway, but he's under no obligation now to explain to Hillary Clinton we're in this position because she deleted 33,000 emails and destroyed devices.
Excuse me,
what happens
if we're talking about protocol, I can't remember the last time we had protocol where less than 2 weeks before an election we had a federal bombshell like this dropped by the feds. Usually they wait to do this either after the election, or they do it 2 to 3 months before the election.
I'd like to know more.
So I'd like to know more.
But it doesn't mean she's under investigation. Let's just be honest.
But wait a second. Let's be clear here that if Judicial Watch and I and you all agree on the fact that Jim Comey owes us more information, Jim Comey owes us more information.
We're not in charge.
Greg, real quick, because we have to jump.
All this talk of release is getting Bill Clinton really randy. Do you know what the big moral lesson here is? Bigger than politics. Do not stand by your man. You know, Hillary did it to compromise her feminist leanings. Huma did it. It's humiliating. Think of all the damage Tammy Wynette's song has done so much damage to the Democratic Party. And the irony of it is that Trump's a serial divorcer. That kind of makes him a better husband because he's saying, I suck, see you later.
Melania's still standing by him despite all those little Billy Bush things.
The other two were gone.
That's true.
So 2 out of 3.
Enough of this political telenovela. Because next, a live report on the Clinton camp's game plan in light of this potential game changer. Stay tuned.
John Podesta's emails out there by Election Day, so stay tuned for that, is that it's not just offering a window into how the Clinton campaign works. It gives you a window on how she might govern as president. Let me give you 2 quick examples. You mentioned the fact that her top campaign officials were in the dark about her email scandal. Look at this first email. John Podesta going back and forth with Robbie Mook, who's the campaign manager. Podesta, as the New York Times story broke about her email situation, did you have any idea of the depth of this story? Mook, nope. We brought up the existence of emails in research this summer, but we're told that everything was taken care of. So you have the campaign chairman and the campaign manager saying, we didn't really know it was this bad. We asked about it either to Hillary Clinton or other people, and we're told everything was taken care of. That gives you an idea that maybe Hillary Clinton kept the most serious information to just herself, and maybe people like Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin. As president, if you're not sharing information with even people in your administration, very senior people like John Podesta, that could be a problem. Last one, on Israel. Neera Tanden, her name keeps coming up, a liberal activist who writes in to John Podesta in March of 2015 when Prime Minister Netanyahu was in America. Israel is depressing. It's a good lesson that the wingnuts are just ruthless in every country. Podesta responds, bad. Why is this significant? Well, number one, Neera Tanden is the co-chair of the presidential transition for Hillary Clinton if, in fact, she's elected. She's going to have a powerful voice in the next administration if it's a Democratic one, number one. And number two, think about, again, taking a step back, what we've seen already. Previous emails attacking Catholics, talking about needy Latinos, now taking a shot at Israel here. This is serious stuff, and it keeps popping up day after day, Harris.
Yeah, and for maybe another reason, too, when you consider just how chilly the relationship is between President Obama and Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. I mean, you would want there to be civility and even playing ground going forward with our staunchest ally in that part of the world.
No doubt about it. And you're right that the Clintons have played this as, look, former President Bill Clinton has a good relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and so does Hillary Clinton as a former Secretary of State, and that maybe she's more hawkish than President Obama and would forge a new day, a new relationship with Israel. These emails suggest otherwise, Harris.
All right. Boy, transparency. It can be scary sometimes. Ed Henry, thank you very much. Let's come out now and talk first with Eric Bolling. Your thoughts on all of this?
So 35,597 emails so far, 14,000 and maybe 400 or so left to go. Neera Tanden, she's very aggressive on email. If you've seen these, I mean, some foul language on some of these. Clearly, she didn't ever expect her emails to be in the light. I will tell you that a lot of them, it's not adding up to a lot for me, but the ones that do are crushing it. For example, yesterday, the Podesta stuff, the Podesta and Kim, how's this? Kim Strassel wrote an op-ed in today's Wall Street Journal. It's a lead op-ed talking about this relationship between Teneo, a corporation that's set up as a PR/lobbying firm to unite Bill Clinton, access to Bill Clinton with these big donors, Coca-Cola, UBS, Dow Chemical, $19 million goes through Teneo, ends up in Bill Clinton's pocket. These aren't massive, massive crony agreements. And what Kim draws the line, she says, the Clintons don't have that line. There's a blurred line between what's charitable activities and what goes right into the Clinton coffers, and I think that is really the damaging stuff, not necessarily who they like, who they don't like. Do they need 4 white guys running the campaign or not, or anyone else?
Damaging in terms of what the nation learns, but I also see a tremendous collateral damage that we are keeping up with now. She didn't even care about her own people. I mean, they didn't know what was going on, but they would be tasked for defending her. And I think about people like the New York City Commissioner, formerly Bill Bratton, who's now with Teneo, and the collateral damage that some of these people who've gone to work for these subsidiaries may feel. I don't know. It's a bigger picture now with these emails.
It is. I wouldn't cry for Bill Bratton. I'm sure he's making a fortune. I mean, that's the reason why these people go over and become consultants. I mean, they essentially go on the dole over there at Teneo. To me, I agree with you. It begins and it ends with the foundation. They brought the 2014 nonprofit Lawyer of the Year out of retirement to go through the foundation and look at the documents, and her findings were amazing. She said that the oversight required by federal charity law, none of it was in place there. She said donors expected a quid pro quo in return for their contributions. You have people at other networks saying the foundation has to be closed. Oh my goodness, that horse is out of the barn. I mean, these people have already paid the Clintons $12 million in the case of the King of Morocco. He's looking for payback. It says it right there in their documents. They expect something down the road. They've already paid, and when she goes to the White House, she's going to pay all these people back. The Saudis, Abu Dhabi, King of Morocco, Goldman Sachs, all of the people that paid her expect favors.
At the very least, she's got to prove that she won't be doing that. And she's got to prove it pretty quickly. Right?
Okay.
And this is not the first time we've heard quid pro quo.
So then why, going back to John Podesta being left in the dark, why would Hillary Clinton, when they were self-vetting, why would she have not put everything out there and told him, quote, that everything was taken care of with the emails?
So when I read through these emails and all the articles on this, there are 2 things that struck me. Number one, the fact that Chelsea Clinton had a concern about the people who are working for the Clinton Foundation. It is quite obvious that Hillary Clinton is Tony Soprano and her consiglieres, Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, these henchwomen that will do anything and everything for her, even if it's illegal, even if it's compromising national security. And what concerns me is we're going to have a president who only relies on these 2 women who for concern and for these 2 women for everything, and not include her advisors and the people that also work for her. It's when you're talking about the White House and the incredible decisions that they have
right.
made for a president, if you're only consulting two close women who will do things illegally for you, that should raise...
Can I add to this?
We're going to fix your mic in like 10 seconds for people who can hear it.
So, so here's the issue. Hillary Clinton was at the State Department. Doug Band, Cheryl Mills, Huma Abedin were jumping between State Department, Clinton Foundation, and Teneo. And herein lies the problem. Because so you can say, all right, so Bill Clinton ingratiated himself to the tune of about $116 million through the access that he was providing, Teneo was providing, but the Clinton Foundation is separate. No, it's not. The Clinton Foundation was also taking money from them too. So Teneo would say, hey, you want access to Bill Clinton?
Right.
He's the former president. Right. That's fine. We'll give you access. You need to pay $500 grand for Bill Clinton to speak, or you need to make a donation to the Clinton Foundation, and we'll provide access. It's really incestuous what they did.
And that's not opinion.
And this
that's
is
in the
30
email.
That's
years of this they've been doing
this. This is fact. This is not opinion. This is what they wrote.
So you started with this is a window, perhaps, into the world of how a Clinton administration would run.
And the people that she would keep close to her.
I want to know who she would listen to, who would have told her that this wasn't just a bad idea, it was like the worst idea if she ever intended to run and win.
Yeah.
I mean, if she
they
was
don't
just...
care, Harris. They don't care. And Kim Strassel points it out, and she calls it grifters.
Chelsea's running the foundation.
Grifters in chief, which means, you know what a grifter is? A grifter shows up and takes everything, invited or not, they show up and they don't leave until they get everything they could possibly get from the host.
Does President Obama care about this, do you think?
I don't know.
He doesn't seem to be involved in any
he did
of this.
originally because he was the one that said that there needs to be this Chinese wall and that they need to stop taking money from foreign governments. And he said, I mean, this was his concern.
He also
when he put her at the head of
she did
state.
nothing wrong.
Well, I don't know. He might be regretting that as you see all of these emails come out and it shows exactly that they were doing everything they said they promised they would not.
I just asked that question because of how much we are seeing in this month of October, and you brought it up months ago. Watch October, and the Obamas come out. I mean, this is complicated.
But here we are 11 days out, and so we can talk about this on the couch every day because these emails are coming out, it seems like, every day. And what really political impact is it having?
There are a massive amount of undecideds right now, more than probably in the last 5 or 6.
Are there?
5 or 6 election cycles.
There's conflict on this issue.
Well, there's independents and independents and undecideds, and there are people right now going, I would love to say I want to vote for Hillary Clinton. I can't get to. I would love to vote for Donald Trump. I can't get to.
They're undecided between am I going to really show up and vote or am I going to stay home? I don't think there are people that are necessarily that many that are deciding one candidate or the other, but there are people that could just say, you know what, she's awful too, I'm staying home.
Wow. Okay, we'll move on. After that Access Hollywood tape came out, a lot of Republicans pulled their support for Donald Trump. Remember the lewd comments he made? Now they're doing an about-face. This is like the 5th about-face, isn't it, for them? The Republicans who are jumping back onto the Trump train, and whether more will follow. And Donald Trump going after Joe Biden for saying he'd like to take Trump behind the gym for past comments about women. Trump says he dreams of fighting the vice president. But argues the press would tear into him if he ever said anything like that. Is he right? Stay close.
Donald Trump holding a rally this afternoon in the battleground state of New Hampshire. And with just, count it, 11 days to go until Election Day, more high-profile GOPers are reversing course, now saying they will vote for Trump. We told you about Congressman Jason Chaffetz yesterday, the chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, tweeting he won't re-endorse Trump, but he will vote for him. Also, Republican Senators John Thune of South Dakota, Deb Fischer of Nebraska, and Mike Crapo of Idaho, who all called for Trump to quit the race after that Access Hollywood tape was released, are now saying they will vote for him after all. This, as a new Fox News poll shows Trump supporters with a higher level of support than Clinton voters, 68 to 61%. What do you make of all this? They're gonna support him. They're not gonna support him. Now they're gonna support him again.
It's awful. Look what Hillary Clinton has. She has the seated president, President Barack Obama, as a surrogate. He's fantastic.
Michelle
Obama is probably the best surrogate I've seen in 20 years. I mean, she's amazing for her. She's got Joe Biden. What does Donald Trump have? He has Donald Trump. Yeah. It's just when I hear people say on the GOP that I can't support him, okay, fine. Then I hear people say I'm he should pull out. That's awful. Or even worse, when a GOP establishment person says, I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Look, I'm a one-issue voter right now. One. It's the Constitution and the Supreme Court and the federal judicial system. That's my only issue. Love Donald Trump or hate him, he's far more conservative than anyone that Hillary Clinton will put on the bench.
Megan, your thoughts on Republicans reversing course?
Jason Chaffetz in particular looks like he's just doing this for political expediency. I actually have a problem with the fact that 15-year-old daughter when he unendorsed, and then I don't know what happened. He said he couldn't look his 15-year-old daughter in the eye, and I don't know what happened in a few days, but now apparently his daughter isn't coming into play with this. He was angling for speaker before Paul Ryan. I think this probably goes to the fact that there is a large swath of the Republican Party who are huge Trump supporters, and he doesn't want to make them angry. I just want politicians to keep with their convictions one way or another. If you unendorse, stick with it. There's a mere 11 days left. We're literally counting down the hours at this point, but you're swaying with the wind, and in some swing states, Donald Trump is doing better right now. I certainly wouldn't count him out. So the problem with these specific politicians that we just referenced is it looks like you just go wherever the weather vane is. No conviction one way or another. Be a Jeff Flake, a Ben Sass, stick with it the whole time.
You hit the nail on the head. The word is winning.
Yes.
And, you know, from the beginning, they were behind him, how much? Zero, the establishment. But when he beat 16 others, they did kind of a check, and then they check back out, and then they check in, and then they check out. At the convention, he had to move forward, and he did. Paul Manafort came in and helped scoop up those delegates. A tape comes out. It is lewd. It is crude. Awful things said. However, now they're back on the train. So what's driving it? What's changed? Winning.
No, I disagree with you guys totally on this one. I think that in this last moment, it is actually effective to have somebody like Jason Chaffetz stand up and say, look, I mean, what a lot of people are thinking, both of these candidates are not ideal. I've got really big problems with them. But at the end of the day, I need to go vote for Donald Trump. You say you're a single issue voter on the Supreme Court. I'm a single issue voter on the economy. I think that we are in dire straits right now with what's happening with Obamacare. You talk to people and their premiums. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the battleground state and how that shapes up. But I think with the economy, with business, with the market, with regulation, Donald Trump is so far ahead of Hillary Clinton in terms of what he'll do for tax policy, how he can get this country moving again, that regardless of how you feel about him, because I hate his comments on...
But first, my opening statement. FBI Director Jim Comey's announcement yesterday that he would again look into Hillary Clinton's emails after he announced on July 5th the conclusion of that very investigation, saying no reasonable prosecutor would indict 11 days before one of the most hotly contested presidential elections of our time both disgraces and politicizes the FBI and is symptomatic of all that is wrong in Washington. Now, you know I support Donald Trump and I want him to win. But whether it's Hillary Clinton or anyone else, Comey's actions violate not only long-standing Justice Department policy, the directive of the person that he works under, the Attorney General, but even more important, the most fundamental rules of fairness and impartiality. 10 years ago, when I was the Republican conservative candidate for New York Attorney General, in the home stretch of a statewide campaign, the Justice Department and the FBI violated their own policy against making public statements that would affect an election and announced to the press that they were opening an investigation of me. It was mean-spirited, and of course, nothing came of it, except the adverse publicity cost me at the polls. What was done to me in 2006 was wrong. And what happened to Hillary Clinton yesterday was equally wrong. The Justice Department and the FBI's policy to not comment publicly about politically sensitive investigations within 60 days of an election exists for a very important reason. Announcements so close to elections have an impact. Now, this nation has already gone through an exhausting and traumatic campaign season. The FBI director should not now be front and center. one of the most revered agencies in our nation's history, now seen as putting its finger on the scales of justice, should not now be front and center. So why did he do it? Some say Comey didn't have a choice because he said to Congress that the investigation was over. Wrong. I read that testimony. Others suggest a mutiny at the FBI was underway because the investigation was never real. Maybe he feared local police involvement, the New York City Police Department, in the pedophile investigation on the Uber Abbott and Anthony Weiner computer might have leaked that the first investigation simply was not thoroughly investigated. Maybe he felt guilty, needing a second bite at the apple. And 11 days before an election? How is it that he sends a letter to Congress? He could simply have gotten a ranking member of the committee and that member's deputy and told him and then said, if this gets out, I'll know that you did it. But it doesn't matter now. Had Comey done his job in the first place, had he done a real investigation, had he issued one subpoena, sought one search warrant, had a grand jury been impaneled, had he and the DOJ not granted immunity to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Uma and everybody else who walked through his office, had they not destroyed the laptops of those without clearance to handle our nation's top secrets, we wouldn't be in this mess. Now, Hillary Clinton should have been indicted a long time ago. She and Bill's scandals have done nothing but soil this great nation's image. It's long past time for both of them to start paying for their wrongdoings. And on tonight's show, we're going to talk about how the Clintons have again brought us to the precipice of a constitutional crisis, the reality of a presidential candidate under investigation by the FBI, and what happens if she is elected and then indicted? Who can pardon her? Can she pardon herself? And if not pardoned, can she be impeached for a crime committed before she was in office? Thanks to the Clintons, here we go again.
Hello, I'm Dick Tapper in Washington, where the State of our Union is eagerly waiting to hear from you. We're just 3 weeks and 2 days away from Election Day. How are you, guys and gals, going to vote? A new poll out this morning shows Hillary Clinton 4 points ahead of Donald Trump with just 3 weeks until Election Day. The ABC News Washington Post poll shows Clinton at 47%, with Trump at 43%, Gary Johnson at 5%, and Jill Stein at 2%. What effect did that leaked tape of Trump bragging about grabbing women have on the race? 63% of voters say no effect. But after the platoon of women this week who came forward to say Trump groped them or forcibly kissed them, 68% of you say you do think Trump has made unwanted advances. So despite a whirlwind week on the campaign trail, not much has changed for voters. Could the final presidential debate on Wednesday move the needle at all? Here with me to talk about it is House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi. Leader Pelosi, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Morning, my pleasure.
So for the past 10 days, Donald Trump has been engulfed in this controversy about this 2005 Access Hollywood tape in which he seemed to boast about sexually assaulting women. And yet, according to this morning's poll, Hillary Clinton is only 4 points ahead, and the Washington Post reports it only had a minimal impact on his overall support. Are you surprised that the tape has barely moved the needle?
Well, I think that what you hear that people say it has a minimal effect on their vote, it means they want to know about things that affect them. What's on the ballot are his name and Hillary Clinton's name, but what's also on the ballot are Medicare. Medicare, we have a Republican Congress that would remove the guarantee of Medicare. Family planning, we have a Republican Congress that will defund contraception, family planning, etc. Education, a budget of the Republicans that would cut $185 billion from education, Pell Grants, etc., and give tax breaks for the wealthiest people. So that is really what the election should be about the economy. I always say to my colleagues, show me your values, show me your budget. And if you have a budget that favors the rich, does not invest in education in a proper way, which does reduce the deficit, by the way. Nothing reduces the deficit more than education of the American people. And then They want small government except when it comes for your personal life. So they have a budget that is not a statement of our values, that we have a big contrast with, and that is what should be the subject. That does affect people. That if you're a senior or if you have a senior in your family, you do want Medicare to be a guarantee.
So speaking of values, there's obviously been a lot of talk in the last week or so about sexual assault, sexual harassment.
Yes.
And it was pointed out in a story in the New York Times today that here you have the first major party woman presidential nominee, and she's been relatively silent. And one of the reasons might be because of previous charges against Bill Clinton. Vice President Biden was asked about this and about former President Bill Clinton's conduct, and this is what Biden had to say.
Look, I can't make any excuses for Bill Clinton's conduct. And I wouldn't attempt to make any excuses for the conduct. But he paid a price for it. He paid a price. He was impeached.
Now, we should point out that Joe Biden, as a senator, and Democrats voted against impeaching Bill Clinton. Make the case to the skeptical voter out there who believes all of the charges from the women against Donald Trump and the charges of the women against Bill Clinton, as to why there isn't a double standard when it comes to charges against Bill Clinton versus Trump.
Well, it is a double standard. Bill Clinton is not on the ballot. He is not on the ballot. Hillary Clinton is the candidate for president that we are asking people to vote for, not because she's a woman and not because her husband was president and all the good things he did as well, but because she is the best person to be president of the United States, one of the best qualified in the history of our country. But I'm curiously watching the behavior of Donald Trump, because he's always projecting. When he knows that his temperament is not going over very well, he said, I have the temperament for the job. When he knows that his stamina is lagging, he said, I have the stamina for the job. When he knows that he has exposure in terms of women, he projects onto Bill Clinton. When he knows that, I don't know what this drug thing is, but I'm very suspicious that he's saying she should take a drug test. What's he talking about there? And when he says she's engaged in an international conspiracy, whatever he's describing it as, his own people described as his advisors, are admitting to having back-channel conversations with the Russians. So I think that every time he says something, you have to look to his vulnerability on those scores. But let's get to what really matters to the American people. What really matters, forgetting politics, forgetting Democrats and Republicans. This is the election for the President of the United States, the biggest political event in the world. The world is watching, and we're engaged in these conversations, not about policies that make a difference in people's lives so they can clearly vote in their interest, and not in a way that honors the vision of our founders about this great democracy.
Well, let's talk about issues. Hillary Clinton campaigned this week with former Vice President Al Gore in Florida, hoping to appeal to voters who care a great deal about the environment and about climate change. But we know now from a hacked email from WikiLeaks that in a private meeting with labor unions, Hillary Clinton appears to have said this in a meeting with labor unions about environmental activists. Hillary Clinton, quote, "They come to my rallies and they yell at me and, you know, all the rest of it. They say, will you promise never to take any fossil fuels out of the earth ever again? No, I won't promise that. Get a life, you know." I mean, I think this is one of the reasons why there have been enthusiasm issues with Hillary Clinton, is that get a life, you know, that's kind of a harsh statement to say to environmentalists.
Well, when I was speaker, my flagship issue was climate and energy independence. And so the fact is you cannot go to a place where you say we're never taking another fossil fuel out of the earth, although we'd like to, with renewables, get to a place like that. But there are plenty of uses for fossil fuels that have nothing to do with degrading
Right, but you don't talk that way. You don't, and even behind closed doors, I would have a tough time imagining you saying about environmentalists, get a life.
But the point is not this. The point is not should we take fossil fuels out of the earth. The point is this. The Republicans have been in total denial about the climate crisis that we are facing. Total denial. For decades, they have opposed any enforcement or even study of the Kyoto Agreement, to go back to the 90s, Montreal Agreement, and the rest of that. They are in denial of science and fact in relationship to many things, including the issue of climate change. So I think that if you want to talk about a contrast on these things, I think it's stunning that the Republican Party, a party that made great contributions to the environmental protection of our country, some great environmentalists, starting with Teddy Roosevelt, and now we have a Republican Party that rejects all science, fact, and data.
So that's the argument you would make to an environmentalist who comes to your office and says, I'm concerned that Hillary Clinton is saying get a life behind us, about us behind closed doors.
Well, it's you know, in other words, I am a progressive Democrat in the Congress, and I'm never good enough for the far left. And so, you know, I understand that. But that is their role. They are advocates. And they must be relentless, persistent, and dissatisfied. That plays an important role for our country. And as leaders, we have to make decisions, hopefully, that are sustainable with the boldest common denominator. Not the least, but the boldest common denominator. We have a responsibility to future generations to protect this planet. It's a moral issue. That's why evangelicals work with us. They believe, as do I, that this is God's creation and we have a moral responsibility to preserve it. It's an economic issue to keep America #1 with new green technologies. It's a national security issue well, we've had the generals testify over and over again the impact of climate change throughout the world being a national security issue, and as I say, a health issue in terms of clean air, clean water for our children to breathe. So there's every reason to try to find common ground, especially with the party that led the way on environmentalism.
So last question, Leader Pelosi. I don't know any polling expert who thinks that the Democrats are going to be able to recapture the House, but you are more bullish, I think.
Yes, well, I believe that we would, if the election were today, we'd have a good chance to do so. What I have said is it depends on how big Hillary Clinton's margin is, A. B, that the concern I have is big, dark money coming in, fossil fuel money, Wall Street money, special interest money, dark, coming in a big way. But we're very proud of our chairman, Ben Ray Lujan. We have great candidates. We have a great message. We're mobilizing on the ground to own the ground. And what I've said is I think it'll be a single-digit difference. Either they'll be a little ahead by some, we'll be a little ahead by some. But it is definitely within reach.
All right, Leader Pelosi, thank you so much. We appreciate your coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Trump's latest message, don't